issue, and that's about the federal loan guarantee. We know the costs have exploded. Whatever the reasons for are always up for debate at the Muskrat Falls project. But to increase the amount from $5 billion to X in the federal loan guarantee, what's the status of that? Because that is going to be of the utmost importance to the ratepayer.
Yeah, absolutely, Paddy. And, as you've heard me say, as cost of the Muskrat Falls project, is we are now ourselves as a government and, with the officials at Nalcor, we are now managing this project as best we can. We've seen, of course, costs escalate, to where we are now. So, yes, there's no secret that we've been out looking for a federal loan guarantee. We feel that we're going to be very successful with this. It's one of the ways that we could actually mitigate rate increases for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. It has a tremendous financial impact on the province, and we're looking for finalization of an enhanced federal loan guarantee. But it's much more than that. There are 3, 4, 5 things within that agreement that we would like to see changes. But as I said so many times, I'm not going to be negotiating or discussing what's happening with the federal loan guarantee in the public. It's a sensitive issue. We know we had the support of our federal colleagues in Ottawa with this, but it is a process that needs to unfold, and we're going to allow that to take the necessary steps that are good, as they should. But I'm very confident that we will get a positive outcome to this, and you will see our federal colleagues step up.
Let's stick with Muskrat Falls related matters for a second. So the protests in Cartwright, they're going to impede Nalcor's ability to transport those 200-ton transformers. They're talking about, and there was some indication that you had given them reason to believe that the devegetation, removal of soil in the reservoir was going to be looked at again, and they say unless that is done, they won't allow Nalcor to transport through their community and to use their port. Did you indeed say you were going to have another look at the reservoir process and the clearing? And if so, what has changed, if anything?
Well, we've had lots of discussion with the Nunatchewit government and with other Aboriginal groups too, impacted by the Muskrat Falls project. What we said, there were 4 requests that came in through Nunatchewit, and I've met with President Lamb on 2 occasions now within the last couple of weeks. And so what it was, we've taken it to the point where we recognize that in order for this project to continue to proceed, that there needs to be impoundment and flooding that would need to be done in the October time frame. And I've made that quite clear. That would include about 25% of the reservoir. They understand this, because if we don't do this now, there could have a potential serious impact, which would include things like ice conditions on the Churchill River and so on. So the impoundment, as they know, would start in October, which would mean about 25% of the revenue or the reservoir. And then we want to continue to work. Keep in mind that this is a project that we inherited. This is a project that we find ourselves now having to manage our way through. And we're working very closely with our Aboriginal leaders to help them. And so we work with them to get where we need to be. Mitigation of methyl mercury is important to us, but understanding what the science is, matter of fact, monitoring is very key to them. And we work with them on our monitoring system. Minister Trimper has done a great job with his department, and we will be telling Nalcor what the monitoring system should look like, and this is all happening in conjunction with the Nunatchewit government.
So are you willing to halt the flooding until this final decision is made? Because once you begin the flood, then there'll be no turning back, I think is the opinion of many. So will there actually be a halt to the process as you figure this out and reevaluate the science?
Well, like I said, the first 25% of the flooding will have to occur right now as a project proceeds. It's the remaining 75% where we will continue to look at all the mitigation efforts that we can. That's about a 2-year process, and we've committed to working with them through a committee where we could have a direct voice, something that they have not had before, and they understand this. And we worked, as I said, this has been clearly articulated, and we've worked with President Lamp and Minister Shywalk and others, on this particular file, and they understand where we are, and as I understand where they are. Health issues are very important to me. I'm also minister responsible for Labrador and Aboriginal Affairs. I've been directly involved in this, Paddy, and we're going to do the best job we can, working with those leaders who are committed to the health issues that they see, and we're committed to work with them, with the committee structure that we have in place, realizing that where we are in October, that the impoundment for October, which would be 25% of the flooding, there's another 75%, that would occur in the next 2-year time frame. So we're going to work with them to do whatever we can to mitigate, methylmercury in that reservoir.
I know Ms. Dempster is the member for the region in Cartwright, but Randy Edmonds has been pretty vocal so far as he does indeed believe there is a moral issue with the potential for poisoning downriver because of methylmercury concentration. Has Mr. Edmonds been told he's not to be protesting and standing with the people who he says he's on their side? I mean, because when we saw Mr. Lane talk about the budget, which of course we know is a confidence vote and there would be potential ramifications of it, but has Mr. Edmonds or anyone else been told that they're not to speak out on this front or to stand with the protesters, especially that they've already vocalized the fact that they agree with them?
Paddy, Randy Edmonds, as the MHA for Torngat Mountains, is one of the most compassionate people that you would ever meet. He understands he understands the issues that we face. Randy Edmonds will tell you, as I've just said, he didn't vote for this project. We now find our way, and Lisa Dempster no different. We find our way now having to manage something that we didn't support in the beginning. Let's not forget that. He's in a very difficult spot here. Randy Edmonds, as I said, is a genuine person. He understands where we are as a government. He understands, and I understand where he is as an MHA. That is the reason why we've been directly reaching out to the national government, meeting with them at their request. And I've told the President on many occasions, this door is always open. It's a government-to-government relationship with the President, with President Lamp, and it will continue to be that way because we have this issue to deal with, but we have many other issues that affect the national government that we want to work closely with. If it's social housing, if it's education, if it's suicide rates, all the other issues. This is one of many issues that Randy Edmonds and I are working very closely with the national government on.
Last question, because unfortunately we're running out of time. I wish we had much more. This is about people talk about the emergency preparedness plan when and if there's a breach of the dam. When they ask Nalcor says ask the government. So I'll ask you, sir, what's missing here in this plan? People seem to think that there is no plan in place, and given the close proximity of the breach to Mud Lake and other areas down there, that there would be hundreds of homes damaged, and the loss of life is really quite possible. And they say to look to the provincial government for this emergency preparedness plan. So where are we?
The emergency preparedness plan, like we've seen in the communities around Newfoundland and Labrador, will be in place, and we work with communities like communities in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and the people impacted in Mud Lake, as an example, on any emergency that could potentially occur within their communities, and we'll all be directing the departments to make sure that those plans are in place as they should be. But right now, it's like I said, we now find ourselves, managing our way through this, and directive will come from me. There's no question about it, and from our ministers to make sure that those emergency plans are in place.
Have you ever visited the Muskrat Falls site, sir? And if not, do you plan to?
I have visited the Muskrat Falls.
I was just curious. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was there just a few weeks ago. I guess I think it was August now I was there. I did visit the Muskrat Falls site, and I've met with many of the workers there on site during the day that we spent there. It is a big site, and I can tell you what, I spend a lot of my time personally trying to deal with the issues, the many issues, both financial and things like methylmercury and all the other issues that are associated with the Muskrat Falls project.
I wish we had more time, but I do appreciate you calling the show today, Premier Ball. Maybe we'll reach out to you in the days and weeks to come and revisit some other issues.
Absolutely, Paddy. I'd like to just take a few minutes just to end your show, which was, I think, really what we've seen in our communities that were impacted by the aftermath of Matthew. The volunteers, I can't say it enough, the great work that they've done. I've seen so many examples in the last few days of where neighbors compromise their own safety in some cases to make sure that their neighbors were safe. And there's some very heart-wrenching stories out there, I will say, as we've seen young families impacted. Personal loss will take years in some cases for people to put their lives back together. But once again, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, they once again did what they always do, and they step up to help each other. And I just want, as Premier of the province, to reach out and thank all our volunteers and community leaders for the great work that they did.
Yeah, we echo that sentiment. Nice speaking with you today. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Paddy.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.